Sony just launched their new flagship camera, the A1 II, which is now on pre-order. The last version of the A1 was announced in January of 2021, so it's been nearly 4 years since then. In this video, I want to talk about who this new camera is for, what features Sony decided to add, if you should pick it up, and if it will improve your filmmaking and photography. But before I jump into today's video, I do want to thank today's sponsor, which is Dehancer. Now, I recently filmed a review of Dehancer right here, which you can check out. I'll leave a link in the description where you can use my code REESE for 10% off, which also helps out the channel. So why did Sony release the A1 version 2? Like I said, it's been about 4 years, so it's been due for an upgrade. Although I haven't had the opportunity to test the camera out myself yet, I've looked at the list of specs that Sony released, which are a 50 megapixel sensor, in-body stabilization for 8.5 stops, improved autofocus subject recognition with automatic selection, continuous shooting up to 30 frames a second with full autofocus tracking, a new feature, pre-release capture from 0.03 seconds to 1 second, and fully articulated rear screen fold out, 8K 30 video. I'm happy that they added all of these, but none of this is really game-changing. Seeing all the specs, I just don't see how this can really be that crazy of an upgrade with what we already have on the market. I also think I can get a good gauge on how it will perform because I already own an FX3 for video and have recently purchased the A7R5 for photography. So why did I buy these two Sony cameras without buying an A1 or waiting for the A1 Mark II? When I'm on a video shoot either as a camera operator or as the DP using my own camera package, the Sony FX3 has been more than enough to satisfy all my wants and needs when it comes to video. Now, I purchased the A7R5 mainly because I photographed a wedding recently where I rented the A7R4 and I chose to go with the A7R5 because I was really curious to see what new software upgrades Sony put in, mostly the AI autofocus system. I've noticed a huge difference because compared to the A7R4, did not have any AI autofocus within the body. With the A7R5, it made a huge difference. So for photography, I feel pretty stacked. With the A7R5, I have a 61 megapixel sensor, a dual chip processing unit, mostly for that AI autofocus, the tilt out screen, which is really nice, 10 frames per second shooting, which is fine, in-body stabilization, which I've noticed works very well. I've also used it and will continue to use it as my B camera for all my video shoots. I found that it pairs incredibly well with my FX3 since for video, the A7R5 has 8K 24, which is pretty cool. Don't know when I'm going to need that, but it's nice it has it. Has 4K 60, so if I need to do any slow motion, I do have that option to do that in 4K. And it also has 10-bit color science, so it's really easy to pair that with my FX3 footage when it comes to color grading. So why does this all matter? I'm a hybrid shooter, so I'm often switching between photography and video. When I am doing a video that requires multiple cameras, I'll use everything that I have at my disposal. For example, recently, I just filmed a podcast with my friend Owen, where our A cam was the FX3, our B cam was the A7R5, and our wide angle was my old A7 III. It worked great. I just used everything that I owned. I didn't need to go rent anything or incur any additional expenses. So I get incredible value from having multiple cameras that pair well with each other. This brings me back to the A1 Mark II and particularly who it is made for. So being Sony's new flagship camera, it is obviously a dream for hybrid shooters. Whether photo or video is your main suit, I imagine that you're going to get phenomenal cameras in whatever environment and whatever type of content you're shooting with it. In my case, I get much more value from having multiple cameras rather than just one A1. If I need photo, I'm just going to use the A7R5. If I need video, I'm going to use the FX3. If I have a video that needs multiple camera angles, well, that's great. I have that many more cameras to use at my disposal. Therefore, when I don't need both, I'll just go with one of those options if I'm doing photo or video, which both will still outperform the A1 II. Why do I think this? Well, let me break it down. For photography, the A7R5 beats out the A1 Mark II in terms of resolution, with the R5 having a 61 megapixel sensor, beating the A1 II's at 50 megapixels. Now, even though it's an 11 megapixel difference, will you see a huge change? No, not really. I've also been very impressed with the A7R5's AI enhancements. Now, Sony has claimed that the A1 Mark II has about a 30% increase in performance with its AI autofocus, but with my A7R5, I've already been pretty thrilled with how it's been performing, and I don't really need anything too much crazier than what it already has given me. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that if that claim is true, the A1 Mark II will perform better with autofocus, but I do have to question, is that feature worth the $3,000 price difference if you're mainly using it for photography? Now, shifting gears to video, even though the A7R5 is a photo camera first, it features really good in-body stabilization. In my last video when I was reviewing Dehancer, I wanted to keep it really bare bones, so I just shot handheld. The stability that I was able to get was pretty impressive for me. I thought it performed really well. But it still can't shoot something like 4K 120, which is why the FX3 still brings a lot of value for me as a video shooter. But what the FX3 can't do is shoot 8K. The A7R5 can shoot 8K at 24 frames per second. Now, the A1 II can shoot 8K, but it can't shoot 8K 60, which would have been really nice. So really for video, there's not too much difference from that and the A7R5 in my opinion. The FX3 is going to be hands down the option to go for video whenever that is my main priority. Now, again, it's really nice having both options in one flagship camera, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth the price point of $6,500? So who is this for? I could see someone like a travel content creator choosing the A1 Mark II over anything else because they need to be very conscious about how much they are bringing on the plane. And at least when I've traveled, I've always tried to opt for bringing as little gear as possible. I could also see it be a great option for hybrid shooters that often shoot multiple types of content that need something quick and on the fly that don't want to carry two camera bodies on them. But honestly, if you're a wedding photographer, for example, are you going to go with the A1 or are you going to go with the A7R5, which is sitting at roughly a $3,000 less of a price difference? You could then get two bodies for the same price as the A1 Mark II and then have two cameras to go back and forth with lenses. I've done this setup too myself in the past because sometimes when you need to get the shot, you don't have time to go switching lenses. You just need to carry your sidearm and your B camera and then get the shot. So for example, I've paired my 24-70 on one of my cameras, and on my other photo camera, I paired my 7200 because I don't want to go switching back and forth and miss a critical moment. I could also see someone whose budget is not on their list of things they need to keep in mind, that they would go with the A1 Mark II because it is going to be the new status symbol, just it being the flagship camera. So there will be some weight in that regard. That's also why I could see somebody going with the A1 Mark II. So even though the FX3 and the A7R5 aren't necessarily budget-friendly beginner cameras, I do think for the hybrid work that I do and the type of videos that I want to create, they often require multiple cameras. So me personally, I'm very happy with having purchased both cameras in this year, 2024. But what do you think? Do you think my opinions are grounded in reality or are they off base? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. So thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you guys in the next one.